Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 1 for the 2019-2020 season. We're going to take a look at a variety of plays that cover mechanics, positioning, philosophy, some judgment, but mainly taking a look at our positioning, our mechanics, how we arrived at those decisions, and then what you can do as a crew to pregame and put yourself in the best position to get these plays right if they happen in your game. So we're going to take a look at plays from the championship games from last season. We're not going to pick on any one official, player, coach, or team, just trying to get better with these plays and get some dialogue going as a crew when we prepare for our basketball games this season. We'll have about 8 or 9 of these tapes and look at several different types of plays as the season goes along. So I'm hopeful that these plays will be helpful for you again as your crew prepares for games and for the remainder of the season. So with that, we'll take a look at some plays. On this first play, we're in the front court. We have a entry pass into the block opposite the bench, and we have a play at the basket with a foul called by the lead. So first thing, trail positioning. Trail, you're in really good position. When the ball goes out to the wing, you can just hang tight, keep your spot, and officiate that matchup. You don't need to bail right to a deeper trail. You're in a really good spot. Just stay right there and officiate that matchup. You're in a good position to see space. Then as we have an entry pass, if you're in that position, you can help with the feet with traveling right where you're at, as opposed to backing up, you'd be looking through a body. So just hang tight. Lead, this is really excellent positioning and movement, and then ultimately a very solid call for a blocking foul by the defense. So you'll notice that his initial position at lead is out near the three-point line. We want the lead mirroring the ball, so we're not going to come all the way past the three-point line extended. We'll be about a step inside if the ball comes out that wide, but if it goes back towards the middle of the floor, then we will move with it. The mechanic that is referenced for this play is on page 133 of the mechanics manual. It talks about the wide angle position and then the closed down position. So you'll notice that the lead, when the ball moves into the paint, closes down so he can view space and then is in really good position to make this call. So this is excellent movement and initial positioning and close down, and then the reporting of the foul and the switch with the partner, that is referenced on page 187 of the mechanics manual, and that references that the lead will come out, report the foul and the number of shots to the table, and he will switch with the C, who will then administer the free throw. So this is really well done mechanically, positioning-wise. Take a look at those 2 pages referenced in the manual. This is exactly how we want it done. So this is well done by the crew. On this play, we had just transitioned into the half court. We have good initial positioning by all 3 crew members. We have closed down on the shot attempt, and you'll see that the lead has pinched the paint, is in the closed down position as the shot is being attempted. So we're in good position there. We're mirroring the ball. That's exactly what we want to see positioning wise. Now the only thing I would say, leads, is if we're in good position, then just maintain that position. I think if we back away from the closed down position, I think we may take ourselves out of a good view of that contact in the middle of the paint. So just hold your spot, and then I think we're in good position. As it is, I think this is a good call, and we're going to send it the other way on the rebounding foul. Now, let's take a look at a couple of mechanical things from the Mechanics Illustrated. First, on page 192, it talks about table side lead making foul calls on the offense, and we're going to go the other direction. The mechanogram is correct, the text is not. So in the mechanogram, the lead calls the foul, reports the foul, and then we'll switch with the trail. The trail will come down and become the lead, and then eventually the new trail. So the mechanogram is correct. The language, the text on page 192 does not match the mechanigram. So that's what we would be looking for as far as our mechanic on switching. So we would long switch, that's what the expectation would be. And then the other new piece is taking a look at page 175, and that talks about when it's okay to bounce the ball on the throw-in. It is permissible to bounce the ball on the throw-in on the end line when we're going the other direction. So in this case, from the back court to the front court, it is acceptable to bounce pass. It is acceptable to bounce the ball to the thrower on the sidelines as well. However, we continue to recommend handing the ball when there is defensive pressure. So good initial position in this play. Hold your spot, lead if you can, and then we will have a long switch, and then a bounce pass to the thrower is permissible this year via the Mechanics Illustrated. On this play, we'll have a transition play, and you'll see that the ball handler will bring the basketball into the C's area of responsibility. This mechanic and coverage is covered on page 168 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and it talks about when we're in transition that when the ball comes across the division line, the responsibility of coverage falls to the center in this case. And it would stay with the trail in two-person, but in three-person, the center would take the ball handler. And then if you take a look at page 116 of the Mechanics Illustrated, it talks about our basic front court coverages, our primary coverage areas, and you'll see that this is in the C's area of responsibility. This resulting dribble drive at the basket is the C's responsibility. The lead would only take this play if it involved a secondary defender. The contact is by the primary defender, so this is the C's play all the way to the basket and is correctly handled and ruled on by the center official in this case. When we're talking about how we would report to the table and our switch, this is covered on page 189 of the Mechanics Illustrated. A center opposite calls a foul and we have free throws. So we would switch with the trail on the other side and they would come over, become the C, and the center would become the new trail. So this is really well handled, good coverage. The C will take the ball handler as he crosses the division line and then stick with him as long as he's in his area, and he would be responsible for ruling on contact with the primary defender, which is what we have in this case. If the contact is involving the secondary defender in the paint and a possible restricted area play, then the lead would have it, but in this case it's involving the primary defender, and the center properly covers this play and takes it all the way to the hole. So this is well done by the crew. Okay, on this one we have the opening toss to begin the game. Seems simple enough, just throw the ball up and let's get on with it. But if we don't start the game with a good toss and have a good smooth beginning to the game, it's hard to reestablish credibility for the crew. So this is really well done here. Nice high toss right up the middle. Both teams have an equal shot at it, and then we move into our position to officiate. So this is a good start to the game, and that's what we want. Let's talk about the mechanics both before the toss and then as we get into our position to officiate. So first, after the anthem and the lineups and so on, we're going to move to our initial positions, which is umpires are going to the blocks opposite of the bench, and then the referee to the far side of the division line. Once the teams come onto the floor, then we can move to our spots as indicated on page 111, which is at about the 28-foot mark on the respective side of the floor for each umpire. And then the referee can move in, make sure that the players are ready, stationary, and then we can give a blast of the whistle, and then we'll throw the ball up, whether it's one hand, two hand, whatever works for you, to make sure that we get a good toss. Remember, referees, if you don't feel comfortable tossing the ball, then designate it to one of the umpires. They can do it. We want to make sure we get the game off to a good start. Once the toss has been completed and we're going to move in one direction or the other, you'll go to page 113 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and this discusses our coverage or how we're going to move into our position if we're going to the right, which is what happens in this case. So you'll notice that the umpire 2 becomes the lead, umpire 1 comes down, becomes the center, and then the trail backs up and becomes the trail, or the referee backs up and becomes the trail. So this is properly handled from a coverage perspective, but just review those 2 pages of the Mechanics Illustrated so you know how to move into initial position once the toss is won. So this is well done by the crew. Good nice high toss to start the game, and good mechanics to get into proper position to officiate. On this play, we're going to have a transition, and the contact is going to involve a secondary defender. So let's talk about coverage, mechanics, and then the rule for restricted area plays. So first of all, the restricted area rule is meant to prevent collisions with grounded defenders in the restricted area, specifically secondary defenders. So if a secondary defender wants to set up shop in the restricted area and take a charge, we're not going to let them do that. That's going to be a blocking foul automatically. If they rise vertically or establish outside of the restricted area and move backwards, then they are allowed to play that type of legal defense even as a secondary defender, and all verticality and contact rules will apply that are in the NFHS rulebook regarding this kind of play. So you'll notice in this play that we have a secondary defender, we have an odd man break, so 34 is secondary by rule. However, he is allowed to rise vertically to contest the shot and stay in his vertical plane, which he does, and this play is properly no-called by the lead official. So a couple things. You'll notice that this exception is noted on page 149 of the Mechanics Illustrated. If a secondary defender is positioned in the restricted area, the verticality rule shall apply if the defensive player jumps straight up in the air with hands and arms raised within his vertical plane and he or she attempts to block a shot. The verticality rule shall not apply if the defender remains grounded in the restricted area, in which case all restricted area rules would apply. So in this case, the secondary defender rises vertically in his plane. That is okay by rule, and it is properly no call. Now, if he moves from position A to B, so he doesn't go straight up and down in his vertical plane and makes contact, again, all verticality rules apply. He would have violated the verticality of the shooter, which would be a defensive foul. In this case, he rises vertically, stays in position A, jumps from position A, and remains in position A. Therefore, this is a legal play by the secondary defender and is properly no-called. And then from a coverage standpoint, this is the leads play, and this is covered on page 151 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and it says if a block charge play involves a secondary defender, the lead is primary on the play, and the trail and center are secondary, and that would be true in two-person as well. If the contact or action involves a secondary defender, the lead has the best chance to watch the secondary defender's positioning. So this is well done by the crew. We're in good position to view this contact and rule on its legality. The defender rises vertically. That is okay by rule, and it is properly no-called by the lead in this case. So well done by the crew. In this play, we'll have contact with a three-point shooter right in that gray area of coverage between the center and the trail. So let's talk about our coverage and mechanics of handling this play, and then subsequently the free throws that will take place. So when we have this kind of play, a three-point shot attempt right in that gray area, right on the lane line there, if both the trail and the center go up with a three-point attempt, then the center should drop, and the center will take the shooter all the way down to the floor and any resulting contact and rule on that. If the center is the only one that goes up with it, then just stick with it, and trail, you will work on rebounding action on the backside. So in this case, if center and trail both go up, center should drop and should officiate rebounding action on his side of the floor. But in this case, the center comes up with the foul, which I'm fine with. We need to let the shooter come all the way down to the floor. It's it looks like the foot lands on the defender, and there's also some resulting body contact. So let's talk about our signaling and our mechanics. If you go to the signal chart at the beginning of the Mechanics Illustrated, it indicates that you can do a couple of things with this type of contact. You can do a dislodging with the lower body if you felt that she was dislodging the shooter with the lower body, and you would signal that she walked into her when you report to the table. You can also call a blocking foul if you felt that she landed on her foot and didn't allow her to come back down to the floor. Those are your options for reporting that. And then when we go ahead and report to the table, the center will report the foul, and then we'll stay at trail on table side. Now, if you take a look at page 206 of the Mechanics Illustrated, it talks about where we're going to go for multiple free throw attempts. The trail should go to the division line next to the jump circle, and will remain there until we have one free throw attempt remaining. So in this case, we'll have 3. So you're going to be there for 2, and then come down to the 28-foot mark for the last free throw attempt. If you look at the language, it doesn't match the mechanogram, so that part's incorrect. We need to make adjustments on that. But the mechanogram on page 206 is the coverage that we want you to do for free throws in 3-person, trail to the center, the division line, and right next to the jump circle, and then move to the 28-foot line for the last free throw. 2-person free throw coverage, if this was 2-person, trail, you're going to go opposite the table on free throws. This is a change from the past so that you can keep the bench and substitutions and everything in front of you, and you don't have to turn your back from the players on the court to handle substitutions, etc. So that is a change. We've had some questions on that. 2-person trail will go opposite. In 3-person trail will stay on the table side and go out to the division line. So this is well done by the crew. Good coverage. Just discuss this, how you will handle these gray area plays with your crew. On this play, we're going to have an entry pass into the block nearest the bench. Lead is in good position to view this action and rule on any resulting contact. Let's talk about the coverage, mechanics, positioning of the trail so that we can assist on this play. So first, you see that we have a matchup at the top of the key. The trail, let's stay at the 28-foot line. We're in good position to view the ball handler and the defender. We can view space. So let's stay at the 28-foot line. When we come out high like this, it potentially takes us out of assisting on this play in the paint. We end up getting the traveling violation, which is correct. But if we would have stayed at the 28-foot line, we wouldn't have had to adjust our position further when the ball comes out here in front of the bench, as you see here. We would have been in good position to view this traveling violation by being at the 28-foot line to begin with. We end up getting it correct, and we're in the correct position, but I think we did a little extra movement that we didn't necessarily need to do. So just hang tight at the 28-foot line. That way you can have this direct view right into the player in the paint, and we can assist on the foot. And you'll see that the pivot foot is the right foot, and it's ultimately dragged for a traveling violation. So this is correctly ruled by the trail. So work a little bit lower and then just maintain your spot so you can assist. But this is a nice pickup by the trail. On this play, we'll have a dribble drive from the bench side and resulting contact with a secondary defender who has established legal guarding position outside of the restricted area and is properly called for a player control foul by the lead. So this is excellent coverage, mechanics, rules knowledge, and judgment. So first thing, trail, let's work a little bit lower. I think we're a little high to start. If we can have a little bit lower positioning, then we can assist with the feet. Similar to the last play, if there's a potential traveling violation, we can assist if we work a little bit lower. So trail, let's get a little bit lower. Center, don't adjust your position, just hang tight. If we hang tight, then we can help the lead as it relates to positioning of the secondary defender if we need to come in and provide information. we end up kind of putting ourselves out of position by adjusting. Just hang tight and we would have been in good shape to assist. Either way, this was properly ruled as a player control foul by the lead. Again, I'm as guilty as anybody of not stopping the clock, but we'll try to stop the clock and then send this the other way with an offensive foul, which is what we do here. So this is really well done by the lead, properly called. Remember the rules for legal guarding position, maintaining legal guarding position, verticality, restricted arc, etc. This secondary defender is clearly outside of the arc. She establishes legal guarding position, and then she is able to maintain legal guarding position legally by rule. So you'll notice that her left foot comes off the ground. This is totally fine to maintain legal guarding position. The phrase, the defender was not set, is nowhere in the rule book. It's all about establishing a legal guarding position by getting 2 feet on the floor facing the opponent, and then you can legally maintain that legal guarding position by either rising vertically or moving backwards, obliquely, and so on. So in this case, she picks her foot up off the ground. This is totally acceptable. She could even move back into the restricted area and take a charge. It's not a restricted area blocking foul if we establish legal guarding position outside of the restricted area and then subsequently move back into the restricted area to maintain this legal guarding position. So just take a look at the rule, the mechanics, the coverage. It's well done by the crew, just some picky stuff just to put ourselves in a little better position, but it's really well done here by the lead. Proper call, judgment, mechanics, and knowledge of the rule. Okay, we have another transition play here. If you recall from earlier, we had a transition play where the defender rose vertically in his vertical plane, totally fine by any defender, including secondary defenders who are in the restricted area. They are okay to do that by rule. In this case, we have a secondary defender. Remember, odd person breaks, 5 on 4, 4 on 3, 3 on 2, 2 on 1. The defenders are secondary by rule. However, that allows them still to establish legal guarding position outside the restricted area and then maintain it legally, either by moving backwards or rising vertically in their vertical plane. So in this case, the defender establishes legal guarding position well outside the restricted area, and then number 22 plays through his chest, and he's properly called for a player control foul. And remember, any plays that involve secondary defenders and have a potential for restricted area blocking foul to be called, this is the primary coverage of the lead. So in this case, transition, it's also on his side of the floor. So even if it wasn't involving a secondary defender, the primary coverage for this would fall to the lead, and he is properly called again by the lead for a player control foul. So this is excellent coverage, very good hustle. We're in good position to view this contact, and then we properly call number 22 for a player control foul. And again, if we can stop the clock and then signal the player control foul, that would be best. But again, excellent coverage, good hustle. We're in good position to see this, and then also really good hustle and coverage by the center, who's there to assist if needed, but he trusts his partner who makes the call in his primary coverage area. So this is well done by the crew. Take a look at the coverages in the Mechanics Illustrated for handling transition plays and who has what, and again, discuss this in your pregame, especially when the drive comes from C side and whether it involves a secondary defender or not. But this is well done by the crew on this play. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 1. Thank you for taking a look at these plays. Again, I'm just trying to spur conversation between you and your crewmates, in our pregame and during the game about coverages, mechanics, philosophy, and how we can pull all of these together to be successful when we're working high school games. So again, thank you for everything you do. Have a great holiday and great start to the new year, and we'll get another memo and training tape out after the first of the year. So good luck to you if you have any Christmas or holiday tournaments, and we'll talk to you in 2020.